Four Nights of the Apocalypse chapter 197 is officially out, and this was a nice, great cooldown chapter with some really heartfelt moments, as at the end of the last chapter, Percival is face to face with his deceased grandfather. And now, in this chapter, we get that much needed conversation between the two of them, with Vargas seeing how Percival has turned out, as well as seeing all of his friends and having a nice heart-to-heart with Percival. And it's just overall just a really nice conversation. We get some more in-depth look at Vargas' character and how he sees Percival. And honestly, I couldn't have asked for anything better. Before we jump into the chapter, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if you haven't already, go and check out my manga podcast, Shonen Pulse, over on the Panel Focus YouTube channel. After a bit of a hiatus, we are back talking about 9 different manga from 3 different magazines on a weekly basis. It's a lot of fun, and we get a bunch of in-depth discussions on each of these individual chapters for series that either are or aren't getting talked about as much. Link will be in the title card in the description. Go check it out. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. Also, really quick, my Patreon is getting updated and more revamped, as now, including chapter reviews, I'm getting a bunch of videos done relatively in advance. So if you want to check out videos that I either have in storage here on the channel but haven't released yet, those are going to be slowly going up on Patreon first before I find a way to have a good time to upload those videos. And any and all discussion theory videos are going to be going up there first before an official date is done, most likely a day or two before the official release of a video. And not only that, I will be giving all of my chapter reviews starting from last week up on Patreon, no ads, so you can rewatch it whenever you want to get an update before the next chapter review, or if you just want to see my thoughts earlier on, go and check out my Patreon. I'm planning to do a lot more. I want to try and do some more streams. I'm planning out to do streams and stuff like that, as well as do like patron reaction type content in the future. I'm getting some stuff worked out to see if I can do all that. But right now you get early access to videos. You also get access to my patron-only Discord server, so you can interact with me and anyone else that joins the server. I'm going to make this as worth it and as fun as possible, as the Patreon will end up helping me do a lot more videos outside of the standard chapter reviews, whether it be discussions, what-ifs, full breakdowns, to be as a higher quality in comparison to the chapter reviews, so you guys can end up getting, get a lot more entertainment and more visual appeal from the videos outside of how I've been doing things thus far. I want this channel to do a lot better, and I could really use some help. The link will be in the description down below. But that long-ass intro out of the way, let's jump right into Four Nights of the Apocalypse chapter 197, Grandpa's Wish, with the cover image being of Percival holding the helmet of his grandfather and staring down at the grave that he gave him 2 years ago. The chapter starts off with Percival looking at his grandfather, as Vargas has a nice smile on his face, as the others realize, wait, did he mean that grandfather? But Percival, in a rage, ends up turning towards his friends and asks why his grandfather is here. Who did this? He's supposed to be dead. Who asked him to come in from Camelot and be created to Camelot and bring him back? As he says that this is awful. But Donnie says to chill out and that nobody ever even knew who his grandfather was. So the idea of Camelot bringing him back wouldn't really, work. And Percival never had that thought to begin with. So no way that Camelot was going to do this. And so Donnie lets the cat out of the bag, same with Gareth, that Gareth used his spirit's summoning ability and made him invisible to bring Vargas back to talk to Percival. As Percival stares at his grandfather, with his grandfather saying it's really him, with Percival beginning to tear up in his eyes and run towards his grandfather. But he stops just short of him as Vargas asks him what's wrong. Percival grabs onto his sword's hilt as he just ends up telling his grandfather that he knows he's not his real grandpa, because he's not even really his grandson, and that he really should have never been born, right? As we get a reaction from An, Nazianz, and Gawain, with Vargas going on to say, it's true, you're not a human being, and you certainly aren't connected to me with blood. And Percival is getting ready to hear the worst, but it's then that Vargas, with a jovial grandfatherly smile, just says, but you're still my cute little grandson, and not anything else either. After all, thanks to you, my life was fuller and more satisfying than it ever would have been otherwise. And these words just make Percival break down in tears, as we then jump from emotional to silly and goofy Percival, just saying, do you really mean it? as Vargas just ends up getting incredibly pumped up, telling Percival it doesn't matter how old or tall he gets or how many pews he grows, he will be proud of him and love him all the same. With the rest of Team Percival realizing, wow, we can kind of see where Percival gets his attitude from. Same with Gawain, literally saying that they're two peas in a pod. Tristan saying that now he kind of misses his own grandfather. Obviously talking about Bartra, not, the Demon King. Donnie thanks Gareth, but Gareth says that this is tiring him out way too much by doing this. And Vargas goes up to Percival, tries to touch him with his hand, but we see that it is translucent since he is a ghost, as he tells Percival he couldn't have loved him even more, saying that he's the apple of his eye, just like Theodora. As we cut to him just fully going unhinged, biting his nails to the point that they're bleeding, just completely losing his shit right now. As, this kind of stuns everybody in the crowd as he mentions Theodora. And Vargas ends up saying something that I was kind of expecting, as he tells Percival to do a favor for him. Help Theodora for him. Percival looks away in an attempt to kind of, ignore the request. As Vargas goes on to say, as he is, Theodora's going to plunge into a deep, dark pit of despair, one that he'll never come back up from. But Percival lashed out at his grandfather, saying he can't do that, even if he's the one asking. It's the one thing he can't do for him. Vargas closes his eyes and says, I understand. I hear ya. I know you went through a lot and how you feel. But he goes on to tell him how lonely Theodora is, and it makes him forget who he really is. He lost his uncle, his father, his friends. His heart is so weak right now, as this does start to get to Percival, as Vargas says the lines, you must crush the evil, rescue the weak, and be someone who risks their life for what is important to them. As this catches Percival's attention, with Vargas asking him if he remembers the credo, which Percival says yes. As Vargas then goes on to say, then I'll say nothing else. The rest is up to you. And he then turns over to Ananaziens, as he says, I'll tell you one thing. As angry as you are, those two aren't really worked up about it, as we see Ananaziens' reaction to Vargas mentioning them. With Percival telling his grandfather not to be stupid, as you don't know what they've been through right now. But Anja says that Vargas is right. As she and Naziens just say, they're kind of over it, they're fine, they're alright, they're not angry or anything. And that they're just afraid of Percival losing himself right now. Heck, this actually shows how much enraged Percival was, to the point where he didn't realize that Anna and Naziens weren't upset or, scared after what happened with their encounters with Theodora. Obviously, Ans was due to Turret being an absolute ass and cheating. But Naziens, I fully understand Percival rage mode in that instance. But yeah, they're just flat out telling him, Percival, we're fine. We don't need you to get revenge for us. We don't need this type of treatment. We've been trying to tell you this for a while now. And Percival looks at them and he sees that he was wrong and that they are fine right now, as he calls out their names. But Vargas then does the big grandpa move, putting his hand around Percival and says, that's wonderful. You have wonderful people you've got with you. Now, which one of these two do you love more? As Anna Naziens kind of gets surprised, Percival kind of confused over this, as he just says he loves both of his friends so much with a jovial tune, with Anna Naziens just flushing the entire time and getting so embarrassed over Percival's grandfather saying all this. As Vargas kind of understands that maybe Percival probably doesn't understand the question, with Isolde just being like, yeah, I figured as much. He would probably say something like that. Honestly, that's kind of adorable. Vargas being the grandpa that's just being like, oh, you got two girls with you. Which one is your girlfriend, basically? So, yeah, I found that kind of adorable. But Vargas ends up telling Percival it's not a bad thing to get worked up over his friends, but what matters even more is that you don't lose sight of their feelings too. As Percival nervously kind of agrees, as he does feel bad over everything that's just happened. Vargas smiles and says, oh yeah, one more thing. He calls out to Donnie and says he has to thank him from the bottom of his heart, saying that with his quick thinking, he was able to see his grandson once more. But Donnie tries to shift the praise to Gareth, because he's the one that made him visible, and Vargas ends up thanking Gareth as well. But even so, he says it's still true that he wants to thank him the most. But Donnie just says he didn't really do anything for Percival. Why would he thank him? But Vargas goes on to say that he's a very kind man deep inside, always laughing with his grandson and always shedding tears for him too. With him around, he stayed just the way he's always been, never swaggering or overreaching. Saying that he's glad that Donnie was the first person that Percival had met after he had unfortunately left him all alone, and that he hopes that Donnie will stay with him as a very close and cherished friend. With Donnie kind of, getting a bit embarrassed, saying, "Aw, shucks, no problem, man, you don't have to butter me up so much." With An and Nazienza honestly smiling off on the side, with Donnie trying not to let the praise go to his head. And honestly, very sweet and also very true. If Percival had met anybody else, he might have turned out differently, because Donnie was definitely one of the first people he met. Donnie was kind of selfish and stuff, and Percival was naive, and so their first meeting, Donnie took advantage of Percival's naivety. But after seeing how strong Percival is, how he's willing to jump at the danger, Donnie just showed his true colors. Just the genuine nice guy that he is, and if it wasn't for everything that has happened thus far, Percival definitely wouldn't be the person he is today. And I'm really glad that we're acknowledging this. Donnie is definitely one of the more important characters in terms of Percival's life right now, and I am very happy that we've reached this point. We then get touching and comedic moment number 2, as Percival just jumps right onto Donnie, telling him that he is really, really sorry about everything he had just said, with Donnie forgiving him, saying it's fine, as we all just get pissed off all the time, with Donnie yanking Percival off him from his cape. As Vargas, with a smile, looks on at Percival with his friends just laughing and being as close as ever. But after getting pulled away, Percival ends up saying that he has to introduce the entire gang to his grandfather, but when he turns around, Vargas is gone. As it seems that after seeing that Percival is truly okay and having this conversation with him, kind of bringing him back down to earth and stopping him from his blind rage towards Theodora, he felt more at peace, and so he truly passed on. And I like that. It's very symbolic, showing that Vargas doesn't have to worry about Percival anymore, and that right now, Percival is fine with the people in his life right now, and that his grandson will always be who he is, and he has complete and total faith in him. And it's just really, really sweet. We then cut to a bit later in the sleeping quarters, where Donnie, Tristan, and Percival are laying down, as they all need to get some rest for the next stage of the tournament. As Percival thinks back on what Vargas told him about Theodora, how he lost everything, and that his heart is incredibly weak right now. And so after a moment, Percival begins to say part of the Holy Knight's Credo, waking up Donnie, as Percival tells him, "Oh, don't worry, it's nothing." With the final page of the chapter being Percival with the biggest smile on his face, the weight off his shoulders, as he says, "Okay then." And that ends the chapter. Percival, Death God, is officially calmed down and gone for the moment. Percival, the Knight of Hope, is back. And I'm so happy, because now we are officially and thematically getting hope versus despair in the next fight. And I cannot wait to see how Percival in this fight is going to try and reach to Theodora. Because right now, like Vargas said, Theodora's kind of lost himself in his despair, so he probably isn't going to listen to Percival that much, if at all. So this is definitely not going to be an easy fight for Percival. But I do like how now, with his grandfather's encouragement and fully understanding Theodora's situation, Percival is back to who he truly is, and is now willing to step up and be the hope that Theodora desperately needs right now. Now, will this work? I have no clue. Perhaps it'll bring Theodora slowly back to his senses, but I wouldn't be surprised if Theodora still blames Percival for everything in the Four Knights, because, let's be honest, even if Theodora ends up learning about why Ironside lost memories, he would still blame them, because retroactively, they're the reason why he needed that strength to begin with. And, by extension, the Seven Deadly Sins, because Bond basically one-shot him. But yeah, there's a lot we can go into in terms of hope and despair, but next chapter is definitely most likely going to be the start of this fight, and I really cannot wait, because now we are almost at chapter 200. 3 more chapters left, and Four Knights has officially reached chapter 200, and that'll most likely be a big pivotal chapter. At least I really hope so, because these types of milestone chapters, a lot of times authors try to put some really good stuff in them, and I really do hope we get something like that for Four Knights, especially since this is going to be Theodora versus Percival. But who knows? I could be wrong, and some stuff could happen that could throw us for a curveball with this next upcoming fight. for the end of this tournament. But what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section down below, and if you haven't already, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. We are so close to 30k subscribers, which means the 7 Daily Sins retrospective is close at hand. And lastly, I want to give a big shout out to our current channel members, Nita Rose, Jonathan Algari, and Isaiah Bookman, who have been channel members for the last few months, if not few days. So I want to give them a shout out since they are members right now. And if you want to get a shout out at the end of these future videos, join the membership. Okay, join for only $2 a month. And with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.